So, I am Josh Wickman, host of the Care Continuum podcast, and we are joined today by a very special guest, Nathalya. Um, and can you help me with your last name? I should have asked this before.
It's Mamane.
Maman,
Yeah.
Nathalya Maman of Anywhere DX, and we're really excited to learn a little bit more about her background, her experience, and some of her thoughts on healthcare in general and where we are, where we're going, where we've been, and yeah. So without further ado, we'll get right to it here. So I really appreciate you jumping on Natalia. And so as far as I guess we'll just start with the basics. As far as would you be able to walk me through, your role and how you were able to get to where you are? What led you to start in the word DX?
Yeah. First of all, I'm having a really hard time hearing you. Your your microphone is not that strong, so I'm only
Okay,
catching every
okay,
two words.
okay. I'm sorry about that. One second here. Let me check let me check the sound here. Um, okay, is that a little better?
Yeah.
Okay, okay, great, great. Sorry about that. So, what I was asking is, I guess what led you to Anywhere DX and just starting it, and kind of how did that come about?
Yeah, so it kind of happened very organically. I was in a very different industry prior to this. I was in the hospitality industry for about 15 years. And I just felt like I needed something new. So I decided to go and do my MBA and try to pivot into something that was going to be more meaningful and impactful. And I came up with this idea of doing a at-home strep test, and that kind of developed and evolved and into where we are today, which led us to found Anywhere DX with my co-founder, Dr. Michael Minna.
Okay, okay. So Dr. Michael, and how long have you been working with him?
So he started off as my advisor at first under another company, and which was really with the same mission. I had a team then, and then him and I decided to kind of start fresh under Anywhere DX late last year, like around August of last year.
Okay, great, great. Um, and that's I guess that. So my next question, as far as the like one of the original, problems that you saw at diagnostics, what was the first thing that made you say, that this needs to change here?
Well, I'm a mother of four children, and it's something I've experienced, so many times that I don't even know how to count. But we're running the same. It's almost like we're running in circles within the same system, which is, your child is sick, has symptoms. What do? You wait it out. If it doesn't go away, you go to the doctor. You have to go to the doctor, gonna make an appointment, wait for the appointment, go to the appointment, get in, wait in the waiting room, get yourself checked, get your kid checked. Results are not available, so then you go home, you wait it out. Like it's a waiting game that just accumulates frustration. It's a waiting game that is expensive in today's healthcare system. And so we just are, it's something that I have experienced as a challenge, as a frustration so many times that has really like made me realize that something needs to be changed. So when you go into, you don't just decide to start a startup because it hurts you. You look into it, you see if you're the only one experiencing that problem. And the more that I have, the more research I was doing on my experience and how it resonates to others, I realized people have it way worse than me, right? Because I could go to the doctor and take the day and cancel my day at cancel my day of work and just sort of like figure it out. But there are so many, the majority of the population in the United States, in Canada, or in many other, developed countries, are not that lucky. Like they are, they're, it's a much more challenging experience for them. And so, I realize that this is truly an unmet need and it needs to be addressed. So there's a big gap, and I just decided that I was going to address it.
No, absolutely. That's really powerful, and that's just taking initiative, um, and based on personal experience. And I think that there's a lot of people that are in your boat. I've seen it as well. And, as far as the system itself, it's just not conducive. Sometimes I think it's they want it tries to be a one size fits all type of system, and that's just not the way that it works, right? It's not.
It just,
Um,
I mean, it works. It's just not very good,
yeah, right,
right?
right, right. It's not the
So,
yes, yes, yeah,
so we've
exactly.
we've we've gone through we've this we're in the same sort of like cycle that we have been for many, many years. Like I asked myself recently, it's like, what's the difference? My eldest is 28 years old, and I asked myself this question, what's the difference in my experience of getting my daughter, who's now 27, 28 years old? What was it 25 years ago when she was about 3 and she was coming up with all these sort of like, common illnesses to today? And there's no difference. Like, and that's only in my time. And I can tell you there's probably no difference from 20 years before that, right? So, the strep test, the rapid strep test came out, I think in the 60s. And so they were able to test at the office and not just at the lab. So that's, I guess, a little better. But since then, nothing's changed. The process is the same, the experience is the same. And I think I would argue it's even worse now because there's even less access than there was 20, 30 years ago, in that, you could find doctors to see you. Your pediatrician was, you were a customer, you were a client to your pediatrician here in the States, particularly. Today, there aren't enough pediatricians, there aren't enough, general practitioners, and you are sort of like forced to then go into the urgent care system that is sterile, expensive. It's like being in the ER, and it's not evolved for the best. It's actually evolved for the worst.
It's hard to believe where we were 25 years ago from a culture standpoint in this country, right? Just talking about broader, like the technology, the cars we drive,
Yeah.
where we live, neighborhood. I mean, so it's everything. But yet there's still the same problem 25 years later. And like you said, it was probably 50 years ago, too. So, yeah, and that's a problem. And so I think that this, what you have with Anywhere DX obviously is trying to help address it. So I obviously can appreciate that. And how do you think Anywhere DX fits into that, the broader healthcare, ecosystem as far as from a general standpoint, and who are your, core users, or who are you targeting specifically?
So what we're trying to do is democratize diagnostic by giving more access to testing that uses simple tools in the doctor's office. So why not take these simple tools and bring them into the home for you to be able to act appropriately.
Mhm.
So, you know, right now the experience is that you need to go to the doctor. Um, it's severe. It's like so expensive to even do that, in terms of expensive in your time, except expensive in the loss of income with regard to not being at work, with regard to just the copay associated to to seeing the doctor when you need to see it. So over the course of time, in fact, I moved here from Montreal 28 years ago. And 28 years ago, I would say we had the best healthcare system I had ever experienced. Like, you call the doctor and they treat you like you're a customer, and they're there, and you can make an appointment, and when they greet you and they put you in the room and they take time with you and they all the good stuff, and your copay was $25, right? And if you were lucky, it was $15. And so we lived in to me what was the utopia of healthcare, right? That's not the case anymore, right? The case today is that you have deductibles that are crazy high. Mine personally is $6,000. You have different brackets. If you go to your pediatrician, it's one copay. If you go to your urgent care, it's another copay. And if you go to the ER, well, that could go to crazy numbers.
Yeah, five
And so,
figures. Yeah.
and you're paying that out of pocket until you reach your deductible, to which, you know, you have to pay your monthly insurance to reach a deductible. So you're just paying out of pocket,
Mhm.
essentially, right? So how do we take that, now that world that we're living, and how do we change it so that we go back to simpler things, right? Where you are your own customer. If you want something, you go. If you want to find out if you have something, you have control over that thing that you want to test for. So take strep, which is our beachhead, right? If you want to test for strep, then you will get yourself to a pharmacy or order online or find your closest retailer, get yourself a test, or have a whole stock of it in your pharmacy, in your bathroom, and then test whenever you need it. And then if you want to see a doctor, you just have to connect to one. It's you no longer have to be force into a system that no longer works for you. And so when you say about how we are truly, how our solution is integrating, or it's sort of like changing the landscape, it's changing the landscape in that you actually don't have to be spinning your wheels getting the proper care, when you can actually control where your care starts. And care starts at the diagnostic level. Like, you don't know what you need until you know what you have. We all know that. In fact, worst, I think the biggest nightmare for a parent is to have a sick child and not knowing what they have, because then you're just want to know, like, is there treatment and how do we treat? So, like, when you are at home with your sick child and you're like, when is my day going to be normal again? Is it tomorrow? Is it the next day or the next day? You can't even plan out your week because you don't even know what your child has to be able to sort of guesstimate how that is going to impact your work or your life or your routine. So we're what we're doing is we're like looking at that whole picture and we're saying this needs to change. And the number one thing that needs to, where it starts, is at the diagnostic level. You test, you find out what you have, and then you act. And if acting means getting a prescription, then you know what that looks like. If acting means you have to wait it out because it's a virus, then you know what to expect. And so at that point, we're putting the power into the homes in order for us to, like, navigate that healthcare system that we're in.
Absolutely. And I think that that's really important because, when you put your trust and you put your money and you put your time into doctors' offices and you try to, figure it out as far as like, where to go, a lot of the times, it should be treatable for someone like for example, my son just had RSV
Yeah.
a couple weeks ago, and we didn't know that. We knew he had something, 17 months old. So obviously we wanted to take care of it. And so you find the nearest urgent care, and we go to an urgent care. I won't even name it. That we're on the schedule, and then since we were 5 minutes late, it's in the city. We're in Chicago, so we're parking. You got to park, and we got to go in,
Yeah.
and we're 5 minutes late. They said they had a 15-minute rule, so we're 5 minutes late. We were within that time frame, and they said, "Oh, sorry, you're no longer on the schedule. Like we're very busy today, and we're looking in the waiting room. There's five people for really one or two patients because there was only one kid in sight." So we're like, okay. And then we just had to go to a different one and we found a walk-in urgent care, but, you know, who were able to, at least tell us what it was. And it was RSV, which is, a virus. So we were told to wait it out. And then, I mean, the problem with RSV in particular is, that you wait it out and then all of a sudden the cough came back and then it turned into an upper respiratory,
Yeah.
uh, double ear infection.
Poor
So
kid.
so that was yeah, but he's strong and he we got the amoxicillin, we got the inhaler for 24 hours, and he is back to being crazy, and shooting hoops at home on the little tight hoop. So he's having fun. But yeah, I think that and to be honest, like that all could have been done from home if we were to be like, okay, let's go get a strep test in your example, or we can go get like just any of these tests that we could just do
Yeah.
at home, and we don't even have to bother with the copays or the bill that's inevitably coming. And then the deductibles, right? I mean, you said 6,000. Ours is 3,500 per person, and that it includes Tate. So, I haven't gone to the doctor, but my wife has, and Tate has accumulated probably a few grand now, just as an example. And we're not even really being covered. I mean, we
No.
are, but like it's minuscule, right? Until you hit
But you're not really
right,
being covered,
right. But
right?
yes,
You're being
yes,
covered if you have a real emergency situation. So it's funny you said 3,500 per. We're 6,000 per.
yeah, which is even worse.
It's crazy and we're not alone. Like, I was talking to a friend of mine who's a partner at a law firm and
Mhm.
her deductible is 8,000 per.
Yeah, yeah,
Right?
right.
It's completely insane. And so the insurance companies don't really care about saving money at this point. Their main concern is to make money every single year. So let's dish out all the money and let's just pay for whatever there is to pay so we can justify increasing fees every year. It's just, the system is not working for us. It's not working for you. It's not working for us.
No,
It's not working for anybody, and it's not working for the barista at Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts. Like it's not working for them. In
yeah,
fact, it's even worse for them.
yeah.
And so I think that we truly are, and until we really start moving the needle with innovations such as ours, right? Then it's going to create a domino effect for the landscape to say, okay, this is how we're going to start doing it better because we as consumers are imposing that change. And so, but consumers can impose that change without solutions to help them, right? To
Mhm.
support them. So
Yeah,
in your particular case, right, if you had an RSV test available at the pharmacy, or if you had a strep test available at the pharmacy, then you could demand from your pediatrician to say, I'm not coming, but this is the result. We can do this virtual care thing, and you can look at this child. I can give you everything you need. I can give you his temperature. I can give you the test results. I can, whatever you need. We need to start creating these kits that allow us to be able to take control of of the bubble that we're in
hmm,
so that we can take proper action and then demand the service that we are deserved to get because we're
yeah,
paying for it,
yes.
right? We're paying for it.
No, absolutely, and I think that it's even it makes too much sense, Natalia, quite frankly,
Too
because
much
if
sense.
it does make too much sense. So I guess the core users are really anyone with a deductible, with namely, I guess it could be anyone, but really maybe with kids in a certain age. So it's really
No,
B2C.
it's for adults too.
It's for yeah,
I
yeah.
had strep a year and a half ago.
Hmm.
It was on a Friday night at 1 o'clock in the morning. I'll never forget. And my pain went from 0 to 100 in like 15 minutes. I felt like I was asleep and then I was up.
Hmm.
And literally glass in and I knew it was strep. I'm like, this is strep. This is not just a
Hmm.
little. And I look at my options and I'm like, ER now
Hmm.
and wait for however long it's going to take, or wait until 9 o'clock, 9 o'clock for urgent care to open. Because
Hmm.
my doctor is not going to take me regardless. So they're going to send me to urgent care. I'm like, what do I do? I'm like, I'm going to have to stick it out with pain medication until 9 o'clock. At 9 o'clock, I'm standing outside on a cold winter day so that I could be first seen at the urgent care. And we're all waiting outside. It's like the dead of winter. We're all waiting outside, and I'm like shivering. I'm a grown ass adult, and even then, I had to suffer through this experience that honestly could be avoided.
Yeah, yeah, and it's just the whole concept is and it just it shouldn't be this way, and the amount of, and I don't have the data in front of me, but the amount of revenue and profit that these these insurance companies are making, and then we're sitting here doing this. And something's not adding up. Nathalya. So
Yeah, it's not adding up.
it's not at all. I mean, are you seeing any shifts towards the better in diagnostics as far as diagnostics and patient access goes? Because I mean, from my perspective, and I'll let you answer, but I feel like the virtual care thing um, doesn't really, it's not really as mainstream as it was maybe right after COVID. There was a window there, but I'm still not seeing it, from a on a macro perspective and like having that option. It's more like, just going in or taking care of it on your own, which is like you still have to, there's usually still some copay involved of when you need to get care. So have you seen any shifts for the better recently?
Well, the issue with virtual care is the fact that they don't have any better solutions to diagnose you than they did back then, right? They don't have them now. They didn't have them then. They don't have them now. So I think this shift will happen when more products come to the market that they can depend on.
Mhm.
And that is what we're working on. Like we want to make these virtual care platforms more efficient. You shouldn't have to call your own doctor who's too busy. You should be able to see a PA or a pediatrician or a nurse practitioner, virtually um, so that you can stay home and then take care of your family from home. So what I have seen is more virtual systems available, but they don't necessarily have the tools to make them efficient and to like trickle down into into like making our experience better. Like that has not shifted, but that's what we're working on. Like we want to that's what we want to do. We want to be able to have these so that they say, listen, go get yourself a thing at the pharmacy, or if you have one, let's do it together. And then you never have to leave the house. And that's ultimately what should happen in the future.
Yes, it's 100% agreed. I'd say and then my next question, I guess, is moving into, even further how AI, if you've seen anything AI related that has helped or has the ability to in the future change, how and where diagnostics actually happen.
So the thing is about AI is that, we don't know that we can depend on AI entirely now for diagnostic. Labs, yes, but for home diagnostics, I don't think that's going to pick up um, anytime soon because the FDA just isn't ready for it.
Right.
So the FDA still wants you to run a reliable test, and a reliable test does not include AI. Now you'll see AI for diagnostic, and like, okay, you take a picture, like you can take a biopsy, and instead of sending it to pathology, you can run it through an AI model that will tell you whether that tissue is cancer or not cancer, whatever markers it's looking for. But when it comes to like infectious disease or upper respiratory or respiratory disease or viruses or just anything contagious like that, we're not very close to the fact that AI is really going to take shape. There's a company that is doing AI diagnostic using a picture of your throat for strep throat. I don't know how that's gonna work out. I mean, maybe they'll have something, but I don't know that they're gonna go through a full FDA submission and pass FDA with that because, you know, FDA needs it needs a lot of data for it to be able to justify giving you medicine based on a robot or a machine, right? Like they're not quite ready for that. So I think we're
Early
still in
stages.
sort of like the model of like running an actual assay on a device with a readout that the FDA is going to agree to more, especially for diseases like strep that have never been tested or diagnosed from home. So to go from like only doctors to AI models, I think there's going to be a lot happening in the middle before we get there. So I'm not overly concerned. It's almost like, like using AI to tell you if you're pregnant by the color of your pee, like
Mhm.
it's going to take a really, I mean, if it ever gets there, it's going to take a really long time for the FDA to say, yeah, sure, right?
Right. Right.
Um, or people are using breath and like AI models to, to analyze breath for different things. I think we're still, I think, it'll happen. I think it's ways away for that to happen, but I mean, I could be wrong. We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. No, we'll see it. I think you're right as far as there's a lot that has to happen. I think the way that AI is developing, it could be not in the near future, but like down the road, maybe a decade plus. We might be able to see some of that. But yeah, it's because anything to help, the current process is obviously a plus here. But there's also the financial part of that as well. Like, is that going to take
Yeah.
money out of doctors' pockets? Are they going to be the ones selling that? There's a lot of questions obviously that have yet to be answered. But that's some good insight there. And as far as just focusing on Anywhere DX in your business, your current state, what would you say is working really well for Anywhere DX right now, as far as your process, and just overall, how the business is going, well, it's working well.
So like I have to say, like, we're in diagnostic. Diagnostic is a very difficult and challenging space to be in right now because capital is just so limited in that space. So we're just like trying to, it's definitely the grind.
Mhm.
On the R&D side, we're definitely making great progress and we're getting traction and we're getting great results. But it all comes down to getting capital, which is a very challenging thing to do right now. So we're out there, we're speaking to
Mm.
people, getting connected and finding ways to raise capital so that we can stay in a position to keep developing and to bring this to market. So
Okay.
we started a WeFunder campaign, which is a crowdfunding campaign, which is doing extremely well, where we're trying to send the message to parents like you that would love this to happen, to be early adopters and as an early adopter, be an early investor for very small amounts of money so that, slowly, slowly we can just raise what we need to close
Yeah.
that very small round and move to a larger round. So, you know, uh, as a company, we're fine. We are strapped in in an area where we shouldn't be in, right? A lot of capital is being deployed within the AI space, not necessarily in the diagnostic space, but we think that's going to change. We just spoke to people today who said, there's companies who are solely AI, and then there's investors that are solely AI, and then you have these investors who want to be as far away from AI. Like, how are you not AI dependent? Like, how independent are you from AI? And I could honestly say we're just not an AI company. Like, do we
Yeah.
use models to help us develop? Sure, but we are definitely not an AI company, and we're hoping that that will be an advantage very soon for us.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I would be happy to, if you, after this wraps up, if you want to send me that crowdfunding link, I'd be happy to take a look at it,
I
Nathalya,
would
for
love
sure.
it.
Yeah.
All the
So,
support to you and
yes.
all the parent friends. Yes.
Yes, yes, no, absolutely. And I mean, I'm 34, so most of my friends, yeah, are in that bucket now. I guess on the flip side, where would you say things have been maybe a little more challenging as far as whether it's awareness, adoption, partnerships? Where have you seen, or what has presented the most challenges thus far in your journey with Anywhere?
It's been raising capital.
Yep.
So, in terms of adoption, look, anybody who has been a child, who has children, who's a parent, who everybody gets it, right? Like they just get it. They understand the need. They understand
Hmm.
what would make their lives so much better. They get it. And even investors understand it. I think the issue is that, we're at a time where, the world is a little crazed right now and money is hard to come by. And we're also competing with all of these institutions who lost their grants, who are going to private money, so the money is going there. So the most challenging part, I would say, is raising capital. Because everything else is going well. Like we have a great team, we have the knowledge, we have a path to market. We're doing all the things and we have the knowledge that is required to get this done. We just need to find the right capital. So I think that's the most challenging, and also to be compared to the diagnostic solutions that came to market that raised hundreds of millions of dollars and failed. So to be compared to them when we are so incredibly different and addressing a much bigger need and filling a much bigger gap. So it's to try to like convince or try to explain that, to be like, no, we're not the same, you know? And so I find that to be hard, but ultimately people are understanding what we're doing, and it's showing, and we are getting support when we get our point through.
Absolutely. And I mean, for you explaining it, it doesn't take very long. It doesn't take much brain power, because you said everyone gets it,
Yeah.
and it has been everyone, at least it's in like my position. And, I think that, maybe kids in their 20s, who are naive, but yeah, I think that at some point in life, doesn't really, but someone, people come across this problem, which some people don't realize how big of a problem it is because that's just the way that things have always been, right? And
Yeah.
it's like, oh, if I want to do this, I have to do this and this and this. Like, but really, if you think about it at a larger scale, it does not have to be that way at all. So,
100%.
so yeah. And I guess what is growth? It, my next question was about growth. What does that look like for you today? Is that just come down to the capital question and kind of just networking, branching out, and
Yeah, I mean, it's
getting, yeah,
all comes down to being connected, to
yeah,
meeting people, to pitching, and it
hmm,
all comes down to, I have to be visible. I have to
yeah,
keep talking, keep spreading the message, and you have to cut through the noise. There's a lot of noise out there, and you just have to keep doing what you're doing. It's definitely a grind, but we're so committed to this, and we're so committed to making a difference in what the landscape looks like. Moving the needle is
hmm,
what we want to do. And I think we'll do much more than that, but we just have to move that needle and
absolutely.
move it in different ways by changing narrative on the investor side, and by, really like getting the consumer to say, we want this, right? We need this.
Hmm.
And so the more you're out there and the more you spread your vision, and you spread, everything that we're doing, will get us closer to our goal. And so that's what I have to keep doing.
Yeah, no, you are absolutely doing it. And that's no, that's really inspiring because it's your vision is, helping, just lack of a better term, it's helping people, helping patients or guardians of patients or parents of patients, make their lives easier. And quite frankly, I don't see how this wouldn't work for the other side of the table too, like making their lives easier as well.
A
The
hundred
providers,
percent. A
the
hundred
providers
percent.
too, so
Yeah.
it can go
I
both
mean,
ways.
don't get me wrong, providers want this. Like,
Yeah,
they
yeah,
don't want a sick child in their waiting room because it just makes more disease grow.
yeah,
So providers want this. In fact, providers are already turning you away because they just send you to urgent care. And so it's not such a big pull out of the market.
mhm,
It's actually very much led by the market demands. We're not trying to change the market. We're actually just answering it.
right, right. Um, no, that's fantastic. Really, really good stuff, Natalia. And I guess as far as the future of Anywhere DX, where your vision, where do you want Anywhere DX to be in the next 6 to 12 months, even beyond? Like, what's your vision for that?
I mean, 6 to 12 months, we'll have a completed product, ready for clinical trials. We want this commercial in 2 years from now. And, in 5 to 10 years, we'll have a library of these tests, one for strep, one for UTI, one for STI. We'll just have a library of them. out on the market, and I think that that's where the real impact is going to show its, it's going to show its it it we're gonna show what we've accomplished, which is, like when people can just have control over seeing what they have, and that's where I think it's really going to make a huge difference. And we'll see. I think the landscape will show extreme change by then.
I think one of the sayings that I like to say, and one of my mantras of life is just being able to control the controllables,
Yeah.
because everyone in life has things that they wish they could control that they can't, because that's life. And I think that this is one thing that's literally you're literally trying to help the patient population with, and I think that that's very noble, and I think it's a great idea. And yeah, I think that that's it. I don't know if there's anything else that you wanted to touch on, but I think that we covered a lot today.
Yeah. Listen,
And
just spread my WeFunder. That's all I say.
yeah,
I
yeah,
ask everybody, just spread my WeFunder. I'll send it to you. If you can just put it on your social media, and you know, um, spread it to all your friends who are parents. The closer we get to our raising this round, the closer we'll get to commercials. So if you can just help me spread the word, that'd be great.
absolutely. And I really appreciate you taking time today, Natalia. I thought